It's important that we acknowledge the Lekwungen peoples, the Songhees and Esquimalt, upon whose traditional territory we gather today, and to thank them for sharing these lands in peace and friendship. Aitsquaichel Stjedacha, Aikwanis Kwanangahela, with apologies for my rather poor pronunciation of Sinchothan. I have made an effort, however, to learn a bit of Sinchothan, as a mark of respect for the Indigenous people who have cared for this land since time immemorial. I think the practice of territorial acknowledgement is an extremely important one, and I'm very pleased personally to see it being broadly adopted throughout Canada and I think to a large degree here in British Columbia. But it's important that we also take the opportunity to reflect on what it means for us both personally and as a community. It's an opportunity to reflect on the history of colonialism, the harms of the past, and the responsibility that we all share.
Guiding the Lillooet Friendship Centre for the past 13 years, Carol has shaped its core values while responding to community needs. Never one to seek the limelight, Carol leads her team by example, with courage and energy, while navigating through significant and constant challenges: the pandemic, economic hardships, fires, floods, landslides, road closures, and homelessness.
You realize what an amazing place this is, and how in every corner of it, people volunteer in a way that's meaningful to them. So that they find the causes they're passionate about, they volunteer with the people they're passionate about, in service of the communities they're passionate about. This day celebrates that.
One of the themes that we saw from the 2022 recipients is definitely the diversity of contributions for the leaders that were celebrated today in areas of inclusion, diversity, but also around conservation, helping the homeless, helping others.
Suresh advocates for the celebration of all cultures.
I'm a writer and a speaker. So that's where I started going out and working with people and telling them what I think about racial prejudices and discrimination and how we can deal with those issues. Racism is not only with one community, neither they are the victims nor they are the offenders. You know, just like everybody else. Racism is international. I would say they are more emotional and intellectual barriers rather than people. The only solution is for people to understand what racism is and how they can deal with it. And do they have racism? Do they have any racist views in their heart themselves? It's not an easy journey. It's a tough journey because you are overhauling your personality, your thinking patterns.
His outstanding service has enhanced the community for immigrants, refugees, and Canadians in waiting.
Canada gets better and better, you know. I think of when I grew up, how society treated Indigenous people and how women were treated and gender minorities and newcomers, and I think there's a completely different spirit to people in Canada now. People have been thinking about diversity for a long time. They've been thinking about what makes one person better than another, you know, which is a really challenging question for some people. And there's nothing that makes anyone better than anyone else. And so that just opens up a gateway to start caring about people more and, you know, being kind to them and accepting them in your life. People need to feel welcome when they come to a community. When they come to a province or a nation, they need to feel like there's a reason for them to be here and people want them here, there's a role for them here, and they have a potential here, and their children will do well here. And when that doesn't happen, I think that's when society starts to become unstable and not what we want the future to be. And so my service to Canada essentially is, or has been, trying to create situations where Canadians can work with newcomers and get to enjoy each other and love each other and understand each other and knit people into the community.
A champion for those struggling with personal issues, homelessness, addiction, and mental health disorders, Bailey feels an unmet need in a vulnerable population.
Well, when I was 21, I began an organization called the Borderline Personality Disorder Society of British Columbia. And we began with a small support group in Victoria, and it expanded across BC. And when they see the police officer in their uniform, it can escalate the situation because they maybe have a past experience that was negative. And if they're already in a heightened state, then it would be helpful if somebody could go and plain clothes, or they're a peer and they have lived experience, you know, or even a social worker, and that it de-escalates the situation. It's like it would just create better outcomes for everyone involved. So we want to reduce the stigma, increase awareness, and bring accessible treatment to folks that we're working with in the community.
Carmen sought out environmental partners to support the local environment.
When I moved into the neighborhood of Renfrew-Collingwood in East Vancouver, I was thrilled that there was a ravine in the neighborhood, but kind of disappointed that it was hard to get to know neighbors. So I started hanging out at Collingwood Neighborhood House, and I got inspired by the people at Collingwood Neighborhood House to start doing community engaged art. So I ended up doing art to inspire people to stop throwing garbage into the ravine. So we started out with ravine cleanups, but then I started the Moon Festival. So this was a way to celebrate the abundance of our neighborhood with the festival and with intercultural performances. We do twilight lantern parades. We have in the dark lantern installations. We have like 100, 120 kids volunteer to help run the festival. And a lot of them are from Windermere High School. And so that is every culture in the neighborhood. And what's really nice about working with the high school students is then they bring their parents and their aunties and uncles and their nieces and nephews. So you get that multiculturalism from working with the schools that then spread out to the whole community. People feel like it's their community and it's their festival, and so people feel proud of their neighborhood now.
As the Executive Director of the Kwamat Lalem Child and Family Services, Bill espouses the organization's guiding principle, together with one heart. Understanding that we are part of something larger, Bill believes we have a responsibility to lift each other up, explaining that their successes are our successes too. A champion for diversity and inclusion, Faisal's purpose is to enable those who have been historically marginalized to shine.
Growing up, I was fortunate to receive lessons from my parents and community in equity, diversity, inclusion, and fairness. The Holy Quran, the glorious Quran, advocates equity and justice, emphasizing that only noble deeds may raise the status, may elevate an individual over another. All of us have a mission in life. For some of my colleagues, my friends, my honored recipients, it is changing the lives through serving the homeless. For some, it is eliminating poverty. For some, it is equity, diversity, and inclusion. Today, we celebrate not an achievement, but a beginning. Let us collectively find solutions to problems that have so far remained elusive. It is given to all of us to be creatures of history. Let us, for our part, try and create history. Accepting status quo is easier than catalyzing change. Change means uncertainty. It frightens all but those who have a vision for the future and the courage to shape that future. My fellow recipients are endowed with both vision and courage, which gives me confidence that solutions to hunger, homelessness, inequality will no longer be an elusive dream. British Columbia is the most beautiful province in the world, and collectively it is your service that has made this province the best province for the world.